You are indeed a bridegroom of blood to me. And he let her go. Then she said, a bridegroom of blood to be circumcised. These are the words of Zipporah, the black bride of Moses, who we will be covering today in our 7-part series on the 7 black women that birthed the Israelites. Give thanks. Zipporah was the wife of Moses, who was the leader of the Hebrews in Exodus and led them out of Mizraim during the Exodus, which happened after their sojourn in Mizraim, Mizraim being Egypt, as slaves. Before the Exodus, Israelites were not known and really came into being in Egypt. Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible, the canon, the law, for 3 major religions, being Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Flavius Josephus, a Roman Jewish historian writing from 37 to 100 AD, claims that Moses married an Ethiopian queen during Egypt's Ethiopic Wars. The wars are generally believed to have taken place during the reign of Thutmose II, husband of Hatshepsut, the female pharaoh. During those wars, Nubians fought against the Thutmose Egyptian dynasty, the 18th dynasty. This 18th dynasty began with the overthrow of the Hyksos, who were called foreign shepherd kings. They were overthrown by Ahmose I and Ahmose Nefertari, his wife, who was later deified. The Hyksos were Semitic Canaanites that ruled Lower Mizraim, Egypt, and allied with Cush, Nubia, the country to the south of Mizraim. Sudan, the land of the blacks, is within Cush, and Cush is also father of the Ethiopians, Cush being from the Hebrew Bible. From 1650 to 1550, during the 15th dynasty, these Hyksos, Semitic Hyksos, ruled Mizraim, and they were eventually expelled, as I mentioned before. The earlier Hyksos were in fact the 14th dynasty, so there were 2 sets of Hyksos. There were the earlier Hyksos, the 14th dynasty, who were Semitic Canaanites, as well as the 15th dynasty. The 14th dynasty Hyksos was a Nubian ruled by Queen Tati, who had married a Semitic Canaanite called Seshai. And together they made Tani, a daughter, as well as a son called Nehesi the Nubian, circa 1700 BC. When the new Hyksos came to Mizraim in the 15th dynasty, the 14th dynasty is thought to have left. Around this time, the Ethiopian Kings list mentions an Ethiopus II from 1730 to 1700 BC as king. And Ethiopus II was a descendant of Ethiopus I, who fathered the first Semitic dynasty of Ethiopia, the Agazan dynasty. Some notable descendants of that Semitic dynasty of Ethiopia includes Cassiopeia, who was put into the sky, in our sky, as a constellation. She's also known as the mother of Andromeda and the wife of Cephas, who is said to be brother of Danis, king of Libya, which is Africa, and Egyptus of Egypt, as well as Phineas. Phineas typically means Nubian. This dynasty also produced Helen of Troy. I won't go into the story of the Trojan War and Helen of Troy or Andromeda at this point in time, but Andromeda as well as the Trojan War is something you should definitely explore. Just quickly on Andromeda, she's stolen by Perseus, or becomes his lover, and becomes the mother of the Persians as well as all Aryan people. At the time of the Ethiopic Wars, the Nubians, who would include Puntites, the Medjay, and the Berbers, all fought against Mizraim. The Puntites are the ancestors of the Egyptians, who were called the bearded ones, and they lived in Arabia as well as East Africa. The Nubians nearly brought Mizraim to its knees, and the succeeding pharaoh, Hatshepsut, ended up trading with them quite extensively, and she brought a few, or quite a whole retinue of Puntites into Mizraim. Her successor, Tutmosis III, would completely subdue what he called Cush and set up a viceroy reporting to Mizraim there. Moses married a Cushite woman, according to Numbers 12 of the Bible. If this was during the Ethiopic Wars of the 18th dynasty, he married a woman from this Kerma Nubian dynasty that I just discussed. And he may have even been responsible for Mizraim not ultimately losing the war, as they did not completely lose everything. However, certain parts of Mizraim were lost. Moses, according to Josephus, becomes king of Nubia, of Ethiopia. Zipporah, the wife of Moses, was the daughter of Ruel, also called Jethro, who is a descendant, or is described as a Midianite and a Kenite. Midianites were descendants of Abraham with his wife Keturah, for whom the Bible provides no genealogy. Midianites are often conflated with Ishmaelites, the children of Hagar, the Egyptian, and Abraham, patriarch of the three major religions of today being Judaism, Christianity, as well as Islam. Because Midianites and Ishmaelites are treated as the same people, and one of Ishmael's descendants is Kedor, who produced the Kedarites, who has a name very similar to the Keterites of Keturah. I often think that they are, in fact, the same people. And Keterites were dark-skinned Arabs. Jethro is also described as a Kenite, which is the tribe to which he also belonged. That was the father, of course, of Zipporah, as I mentioned before. The Kenites are thought to be descendants of Cain or Canaan. As descendants of Cain, who's a son of Eve, the first woman, he was a pre-Noahic, or meaning pre-flood being. And according to Ethiopian tradition, he would have been black, as he existed before the time of the flood and the separation of the races and languages which occurred after the Tower of Babel. The original people were Ethiopians, sons of Cush, whose land was encompassed by a river that flowed, one of the rivers that flowed from the Garden of Eden, where humanity began according to the Bible. As well as additionally, according to latest archaeological and scientific evidence, humanity as we know it began in East Africa 233,000 years ago, although there were earlier forms of hominins in North Africa from 315,000 years ago. Thus, in this instance, science seems to confirm the Bible in that humanity began in both, believe that humanity began in the same place. Kenites end up completely merging with the Israelite tribe of Judah in Judges, according to Judges 1:16. And the Midianites would end up being completely integrated into the Israelites as well after what is called the Baal-Pur incident, when all of the Midianite men were sacrificed, or rather slaughtered, by the Israelites, and the virgin women or girls were taken either as slaves or brides within Israel, within the tribe of Israel. Midianites occupied the Sinai, Transjordan, as well as the Dead Sea, east of the Dead Sea, and Arabia in the south, Araba, all of Arabia, and then in the southern Arabia as well, which is Yemen. These were all territories that were occupied by the Sashu, who have been identified as Midianites, as well as Israelites of ancient times, and Saracens also occupied that area of more recent times. The Saracens were black giants, often described as giants, descendants of Sarah, who were often confused with Moors. Some say they were in fact Ishmaelites or Midianites. Either way, they were Hebrews. And many would be Israelites, as again, according to Numbers 31 of the Bible, the Midianites pretty much ceased to exist and were completely incorporated into Israel very early on in the her story of Israel. Zipporah was instrumental in creating the race of Israel. She bore Moses 2 sons, Gershon and Eliezer. Gershon's descendants would become the priests for the seafaring tribe of Dan, which also had a large presence in Ethiopia and Libya, as well as Europe. Zipporah saved Moses, the leader of the Israelites' life, by performing one of the earliest, if not the earliest, circumcision on the newly formed race of Israel. She circumcised her son and then said, "You are truly a bridegroom of blood to me," in Exodus 4. Not exactly sure what that means. Due to Zipporah's influence, the great prophet Moses was saved, and according to Josephus, the Ethiopians provided a new kingdom for Israel upon their exit from Mizraim. Even the Bible says that Moses, the great leader, first leader of the Israelites, actually lived in the land of Midian, in Jethro's territory, Zipporah's father, after he had to flee Egypt after killing an Egyptian. So yes, Moses was a murderer on the lam. And he found refuge in Midian, land of Zipporah, his wife. Her father also taught Moses how to rule the Israelites by appointing judges in Exodus. I would like to note that although the Midianites were said to have been exterminated in the Baal-Pur incident, some apparently survived. Maybe it was just those women who survived and were finally driven out of Gideon into western Palestine. They were driven out by Gideon, the Israelite judge, and ended up in western Palestine, where they pretty much disappear from the biblical narrative. So the Midianites had a great influence on the Israelites and actually merged into them. Just getting back to Jethro, the Midianite Kenite, he also gave Moses instructions on how to rule the Israelites, but it was also in the land of Midian that Moses saw the burning bush of Yah, which was in the Sinai, land of Midian, again, the home of his wife, Zipporah. And for these reasons and others, I'd like to honor our maternal ancestor, Zipporah, today. with this video. Give thanks. Thanks for listening. Check our Patreon page for patron privileges at patreon.com/WISTribe. Learn more, join us with the links below. Peace. Are you tired of working that 9 to 5? Gotta scrimp and save just to survive? Come get the tools you deserve to thrive when you decide to take the dive into the pursuit of your own bliss. Come learn how to start a business. For the book or the course, you just need to go to the website linked below. All brought to you care of Online Pro.